All right, Nitro. Nitro was definitely better than last week.
Nitro number 125, February 9th. I forgot to change that date. God forbid I get that wrong. Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff came out for a promo. Hogan says the word's out on the street. The word's in the gyms of Venice Beach. The word is out in all the girly bars.
Excuse me?
That's what he said.
The girly bars.
Girly bars. So the word is that Randy Savage is leaving the NWO. He says, Savage, I know you're in the building tonight.
That is a hot topic in the girly bars.
I bet it was.
I do remember this in 1998.
And Hogan says, I'm going to give Savage the wrestling lesson of his life. Savage appears in the crowd. Cuts a total babyface promo, vows to kick Hogan's ass and take his place against Sting in the championship match at Super Brawl.
That was a good segment.
That was a good segment. The announcers noted that Larry Zbyszko was not there. They did not know where he was, but they still put his graphic on the screen so we could see his name in front of an empty chair. Showed clips of Mongo versus Bulldog. I don't know why you would ever do this, but they did. Then we have Steve McMichael versus Glacier.
Steve Mongo McMichael versus Glacier. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things about Nitro. They'd put any goddamn match together. They totally didn't care.
So, Louis Spicoli comes out to join the announce desk. I didn't think he was very good. He had no chemistry with Shivani or Tenay. They're just doing unfunny comedy for, as it turned out, like 45 minutes. Meanwhile, in the ring, Mongo and Glacier had no chemistry either.
Was Spicoli any worse than Larry normally is?
That's actually a good point. Maybe a little, because he talked faster and mumbled more, or not such mumble, but just softer and said too much stuff. But anyway, that had a crappy match, although I will say, when Mongo hit his tombstone and won at the end, people were still jumping up and down with glee.
I think that the best spot was Mongo is on his knees in the middle of the ring, and Glacier goes to the top rope, and he leaps off the top rope, and Mongo responds by doing a back elbow from his knees to knock the guy out of midair.
Yes, that happened.
I don't know what the plan was, but I'm glad I got to see that at least once in my lifetime. That was so bad.
So Mongo wins, and out comes Mortis. Mm-hmm. Do you recall a conflict between Mortis and Mongo? Why did Mortis hit the ring?
I don't know. Something with Glacier? Weren't they going to get together or been together? I don't even remember.
Mortis
I have no idea.
Mongo made his own comeback, tombstone Mortis too.
Yeah.
Then Mongo says, Bulldog, I hope you're watching because you're next.
Can't wait for that match. That rematch.
Conan versus, in his Nitro debut, Norman Smiley.
I don't want to say anything negative about Norman Smiley. Sure, he's a nice guy. But he's one of the main trainers at the Performance Center. He was so bad in this match. This was a bad wrestling match between him and Conan.
I was trying to figure out how two guys who had both spent, I believe, most of their careers working in Mexico could be so totally on two different pages throughout the entire match. Now, the other thing about this is, and this isn't, well, mostly not Norman's fault, but the announcers were fucking around with Spicoli the entire time and doing dumb jokes. Norman comes out, no graphics, never been on Nitro before. If you didn't know who he was, you would just think he was a random black fella with a good body in lemon yellow trunks that said magic on the ass and no knee pads. And wrestlers who wore trunks and no knee pads always look creepy. So they did a bunch of...
Jack Gallagher?
Creepy?
I guess so.
Did a lot of wacky lucha roll-ups. Conan hit a Fisherman Buster and the Tequila Sunrise for the win. And then Vincent's out there with the NWO, and they go to cut a promo into the camera. Conan was gassed. It's not quite as bad as the recent Luger matches we've been watching, where he's gassed in a minute.
Nothing in the world could be worse than that.
But he's gassed after these 4 matches like he's going to lay down and die after a 4-minute match. Mike Tenay interviewed some guy from General Motors.
Brad Dillon.
It was about WCW sponsoring a race car.
Lance Hooper. Who looked like Frank Shamrock.
They showed Lance Hooper posing for photos. Now, Lance Hooper's job is to get into a car and drive at 180 miles an hour in very tight traffic for 3 hours and not die. But he was terrified at doing this photo shoot. Very awkward man. Nick Patrick was in the ring, and JJ came out to address him.
Now, I got to talk about this very quickly. Nick Patrick's just standing there getting ready to referee a match. JJ comes out. JJ Dillon feels the need to stop the show. The show cannot go on. Nick Patrick, you are not the official assigned to the following match. You must get out of the ring. You're under suspension. Nick actually cuts a great promo, pleads his case. He's never been to trial. He's been here since Ted Turner bought the company.
Never been to trial. I like that line.
Yeah. Been here forever. He never left, unlike J.J. Dillon. Threatens a lawsuit. Dillon says it doesn't matter. Get the hell out of here. And then, out come Disco Inferno and Yuji Nagata. Why the fuck could Nick Patrick not referee Disco Inferno and fucking Yuji Nagata? He fucking stopped the show. Like Hulk Hogan and Sting are about to have a match, and Nick Patrick is not the man for the job. He fucking came out and stopped the show, and they argued about lawsuits in the middle of a live wrestling show. And the fucking match is Disco Inferno and Yuji Nagata. I couldn't believe my eyes.
No, that's about it. I just couldn't figure out why they were even bothering with this. Why is this stupid ref angle that has run its course twice now?
Because Hogan and Sting are wrestling again, and they need a referee. And Hogan wants it to be Patrick, because Patrick has fucked Sting twice. And WCW doesn't want it to be Patrick. That's the storyline.
It's a dumb storyline. The storyline should be it's Hogan versus Sting. Why are you throwing this other bullshit in there? Yuji Nagata versus Disco Inferno did happen. So I was listening to Spicoli during this match, and something occurred to me. I may have been too hard on him earlier. He was 2 decades ahead of his time because he was a comedy goof. He could be kind of funny at times. He could wrestle a little bit. But it was the Monday Night Wars, and if you were a comedy goof in the Monday Night Wars, you were Scott Hall's lackey, and you feuded with announcers. If you're a comedy goof in 2016 or 2017 on Monday Night Raw, they put the tag team and or universal straps on you and push you to the moon.
That's true. He missed his calling.
He did. So this match ruled because it was just Yuji Nagata beating the shit out of Disco Inferno.
Until Disco hit the chart buster, the Stone Cold Stunner.
Literally.
And everybody went nuts.
Literally, Disco's on the offense. Yuji's going for the Nagata lock. But Sonny jumps in the apron and says, no, don't finish him yet. Continue the beating. So Yuji goes up, he misses a fist drop, and Disco hits the stunner and wins. Now, you'll recall earlier I was very confused why Mortis had hit the ring. And here we are, these many minutes later, I am so confused. I was also confused when La Parka hit the ring and attacked both these men with a chair.
Well, they're going to feud over who's the better dancer. Thought that was abundantly clear.
La Parka and Yuji?
No, and Disco.
Then why did he hit Yuji?
No, Parka waffled Disco.
He also waffled Yuji Nagata.
He was just,
I don't know, actually.
He was in Texas.
I was quite confused by all this.
Fans loved it. Well, Nagata was just, he was there. He was the wrong place, wrong time.
Mike Tenay interviewed Lex Luger.
This was one of Luger's best promos of his career.
He was very angry. He's sick of Hogan. He's sick of Savage. Says, both you guys are overlooking Sting. Savage, I have a match with you. You're overlooking me. I hope you beat each other's ass tonight. And then I think he challenged the winner to a match.
Yes.
And based on what happened later, I believe that is the case.
Yes, he said he wanted Savage after the main event tonight, no matter who won.
Very passionate about all this. Then we had the best match I've ever seen in my life.
This is awesome.
Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho versus Dean Malenko and Chavo Guerrero in El Paso, Texas. First of all, a quick note. Shivani says, this match is brother against brother. I mean, brother against nephew. And then he just gave up. Tenay filled him in. It was nephew versus uncle later. But the point is, it was 4 very close friends. And what usually happens in wrestling matches when you get 4 close friends together is they tend to beat the crap out of each other. And they did here. It was glorious.
I read the review of this in The Observer, and Dave claimed that the fans were into Chavo and Eddie. I don't know what match he was watching. Mm-hmm. The fans were super into Eddie Guerrero, who I might add was a heel. And even though Chavo Guerrero was his nephew, they were not into Chavo. In fact, they booed Chavo. Chavo was booed in this match as part of the babyface team.
In El Paso.
I guess it's the babyface team, because I think Malenko's kind of a heel, sort of, isn't he? I don't even know. This show's too hard to follow.
I don't know, but this match was so awesome.
It was great.
Like, I know everyone knows...
Eddie was the best guy by far.
I know everyone knows Eddie Guerrero was great, but trust me, all of you, you've forgotten just how great he was.
Yes, if you've not seen...
unbelievable.
If you've not seen Eddie since his WWE days, or you never saw him when he was in WCW...
Also true.
You got to go back and watch this match. He blew away my favorite wrestler, Dean Malenko. He blew away Chris Jericho. He fucking blew away his poor nephew, Chavo. He blew away everybody in this match. He was like the best wrestler I ever saw in this match.
So fucking good. So, he on Dean for a long time. Chavo gets the hot tag, runs wild, goes up top, but Eddie shoves him off. Jericho hooks the Boston Crab for the win. Young wrestlers all over the world need to watch this to learn how to do a tag match. This was great.
I'll say.
A video package showing the tension between the Steiner brothers. El Dandy versus Juventud Guerrera.
Dandy versus Hoovy is what I wrote.
First of all, Dandy's music. This is the jauntiest music of all time.
Well, he's a jaunty dude.
He is a jaunty dude. It fit. Had a very fun little match. Didn't have a lot of time, but they did the most with what they had. And Hoovy won with the Michinoku driver and the 450.
Now, the best thing about this was when Jericho came out afterwards, and Hoovy... Well, Jericho comes out and attacks him, and then when he gets beat up, he claims he was there to congratulate him. Can't believe this disrespect. So Hoovy wants a mask versus belt match, but the problem is, Hoovy doesn't speak any English.
Yeah.
Now, the good news is, Chris Jericho does speak Spanish. And so, we had a segment where the babyface issued a challenge in a foreign language to a heel. The heel correctly translated for the babyface, and then accepted his own challenge. I don't have the words to explain how awesome this was. This was so... I mentioned last week that last week was the week where a switch flipped and Chris Jericho became modern. Like, prior to 2 weeks ago, he was the old Chris Jericho. He was the WCW Chris Jericho. But last week, he suddenly became Y2J. This was exactly what you would see on Raw in 2017. Delivery was the same. Comedy was the same. Everything was the same. It was totally modern, and it was awesome. This segment ruled.
So does Jericho versus Hoovy at Super Brawl, mask versus title. Had a Goldberg hype video, followed by one of Goldberg's most famous matches.
Okay. This match. I don't know about you, but this was the first time I'd seen this match since it happened. This match has grown in the telling. This match has been completely blown out of proportion. There was no shoot. Regal wasn't shooting on Goldberg. Regal was in there, probably a little bit fucked up, and he decided that he was just going to call a bullshit match with Goldberg. I think maybe in his mind, he thought he was going to get a great match out of this guy. He certainly did not.
No.
There were a couple of hard shots. They were on different pages here and there. I mean, it certainly was not the match that Goldberg should have had. It certainly didn't ruin Goldberg.
No.
It wasn't a shoot.
No, that is the key.
It was just a really bad match.
The most you could say is that at times Regal was not cooperating.
I don't even know if you could say that.
Yeah. They were definitely on different pages, that's for sure. But,
I mean, you know that Goldberg was just going to listen.
Yeah.
And Regal thought, I got an idea. And this was it.
There were times when Goldberg would try something and Regal would say, I'll just counter this instead. And it was just sloppy and bad. It went 3 or 4 minutes. They both came out looking pretty silly. And then Goldberg went with the jackhammer and the spear, or the spear and the jackhammer. And he went on being Goldberg. In the long run, it really meant nothing.
But am I imagining things where, like, nowadays the story is, well, you know, Regal was a carnival shooter.
That's the way I've...
And he went in there and he taught this Goldberg a lesson.
That is the story I've heard, too, that he exposed Goldberg.
No, he exposed himself as calling a shitty match with a green guy.
Yeah. It was not a shoot. It was not teaching him a lesson. It just was a bad match.
And keep in mind, Regal is fired very shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
This was a bad time in his career. He may have been out of his mind here.
Well, on that note, Louis Spicoli versus Chris Adams. So I was aware, watching this afternoon, that neither of these men was long for this earth at the time this is taped. So I looked up exactly when they passed. Louis died 6 days later.
Yep.
And Adams made it about a year and a half. So this is Louis Spicoli's last TV match, at least maybe not Thunder, but last Nitro match. And they're in there doing their stuff. It was short. Raven and the Flock came out during this 2-minute match. And Adams hits the super kick. Spicoli gets the ropes. Blatantly smashes Adams in the head with the briefcase with the DQ. Really hard in the head. And he's going after him after the match, but Zbyszko finally arrives. Chases Spicoli around the ring. Spicoli flees to the back. Then Larry, the babyface, cuts a promo.
Oh my god. This is such a fucking terrible promo. He's supposed to be a good guy.
Yes. Larry cuts a promo about how Louis had broken into his room and stolen his bags. All right, fine. And then Louis also paid off his limo driver to drop him off in the wrong neighborhood. Okay, weird, but all right. And this limo driver dropped him off in the wrong neighborhood in El Paso. And I don't speak Spanish, Larry says.
This fucking numbskull.
It was just depressing from start to finish.
Hey, I hate to use these terms based on the fact that Louis Spicoli passes away 6 days later, but there's no other way to describe what happened. Spicoli fucking waffles this guy in the head. And he does, in fact, fall down like he's dead. He doesn't move. He's unconscious. It pained me to laugh at this. But in pro wrestling, the idea that a man could be knocked unconscious, and the first thing that the referee does is he reaches down and he lifts his arm up in the air to announce that he's the winner, and then lets go and it falls back down to the mat. I'm like, this is so goofy. I wish I could have made this statement here under better circumstances. Mm-hmm. By the way, so we went to SmackDown tonight, and in the opening segment, it starts out with Daniel Bryan coming out to talk about how he's grateful because we're here in Seattle. Now, I didn't have a notepad. I didn't take notes. I mean, I watched this totally as a fan. I was doing a little bit of tweeting, but I watched this show totally as a fan. And at the end of the opening segment, it really hit me how ridiculous professional wrestling is. This was a live television show where we're supposed to believe that a fella came out to talk about gratitude, and then four geeks of their own accord came out one at a time and started yelling at each other. And then the guy signs him to a match that takes up 25 minutes of television time. Under, I guess, the assumption that we didn't have anything else on the show here tonight.
That's the key. And it was the opener, by the way.
Yeah.
So apparently he had nothing planned for after his speech.
I mean,
just dead TV, an empty ring for 20 minutes.
I was just watching it as a fan thinking, this is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. This is so phony and staged.
I'm sure it's happened, well, often in pro wrestling, but that's a, you know.
Yeah, every show.
Well, in the past, I guess 20 years now, it's been every show. It didn't happen every show in the 80s. I'm sure it happened here and there. But like the first time, whether it was Vince or Stephanie or whoever was in charge, or Bischoff or whatever, the first time somebody says, all right, I'm putting you guys in a match and it'll be right now. And I'm sure everyone thought, right now? Oh, chaos. Havoc is reigning. What's going on? And it was probably pretty cool. After that, you start to realize when they do it every show, you realize you had a week to put the show together and you didn't bother to put together a main event until someone came out to cut a promo.
Yeah. Well, you know, back in the old days, I mean, if something happened that necessitated changing the format of the show, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because they wanted you to pretend as a fan that you were watching a real sporting event.
Yes.
That's why there was always, occasionally, the main event would end early and a standby match would start with TV time remaining.
Yes.
Because they wanted to convince you that, well, we had a plan.
Yes.
In case the
we
main
are
event...
competent.
Exactly. Like, you never know when the main event might end before the top of the hour, so we always have a standby match to go after the main event. Now it's like a weekly skit where somebody talks, and then a bunch of dudes come out, and they talk, supposedly unplanned, even though it's as scripted and formatted as... Anyway, it was weird.
There was an awful Booker T hype video. I know I say this a lot, but they were owned by one of the world's great media conglomerates, and this is the best they could do.
Yes, that's WCW.
Yeah. Ultimo Dragon versus Saturn. So
This was no good.
there were some cool suplexes. There were some cool kick combos. And in between, there'd be 2 or 3 minutes of nothing. Just nothing. There were some boring chants. Dragon kept going for the Dragon Sleeper. He gets it on a third try. In fact, let me go back. 90% of this match was Saturn holding Ultimo Dragon, having him on the ground in a hold. And Dragon would do some cool kicks once in a while. And he makes his comeback, and he finally hits his finisher on the third try. And as soon as he hits it, Saturn just muscles him over and cradles him for the win. Could they have made Dragon a bigger geek here?
Oh, they found a lot of ways to make a lot of guys geeks. To answer your question.
That was that. They showed a match from Thunder of DDP wrestling Benoit when Raven and the Flock ran in and attacked them both. And all I can say about this is, were they outside in a thick fog? There's a cloud throughout the entire ring here. And back on Nitro, it was supposed to be Raven versus Booker T. Raven cuts a promo saying, Booker, your TV title belongs to Saturn. You should go hand it to him right now. But since you won't, guys, get him. And the Flock attacked. And eventually, Booker fought them off for a while, got overwhelmed. And Raven dropped him with the DDT. Saturn then appeared, and he put Booker in the rings of Saturn, and the Flock tormented him for a while.
Couldn't believe the heat that Raven got here. For a total mid-card nothing segment, the people were going nuts chanting Raven sucks.
That's true. Randy Savage hype video was much better than the Booker T hype video.
Got a lot of hype videos now. They gone to 3 hours.
There's
a lot to hype.
A lot to hype. Randy Savage versus Hollywood Hogan.
This match was really good.
This was. I forgetting what happened here almost 20 years ago. I was expecting all this to be a setup and a trap for Luger or Sting, whatever. But no, Savage and Hogan hated each other and wanted to fight. So Savage jumped him in the aisle, ran wild for a minute or two. And then Hogan cut him off with a low blow, and Savage sold for about 10 straight minutes. Savage goes for the axe handle to the floor, and his head and face hit the guardrail. I have seen Savage hit 1,000 axe handles to the floor and probably missed 100 or more. I have never seen him react to hitting the guardrail like this, probably because he really hit the guardrail fucking hard.
Dude, this guy was out of his mind, and he pulled a really good match out of Hulk Hogan. He worked his ass off. He had Hogan working his ass off. And you know what? All of the announcers on commentary all played David Crockett in his prime. They were super into this match, and it made the whole thing better.
So both guys tried to use a chair but failed. Savage eventually hits the big elbow, but the NWO hits the ring and lays into him. And they hold him so Hogan can hit a chair shot right to the head. They leave him lying and make their exit, but Randy Savage is nuts, and so he charges up the rail and tackles Hogan right as they go to break. As promised, Lex Luger comes out and he's pissed. And Shivani outright says, I have no idea what's about to happen here. And Elizabeth comes out to talk to him, but Luger says, nope, not falling for that again. I want Randy Savage right now. And so Randy Savage jumped him from behind, hit like 2 moves, and Lex was dead. He had like 2 punches and a body slam. And he goes up for the big elbow, and Sting runs out and attacks Savage.
Man, when Savage ran in through the crowd, Tony Schiavone goes, he's a crazy man. I was like, God damn, you're right.
Well, he is.
The guy's nuts.
He absolutely is. But I was still thinking, so Savage just went 10 minutes with Hulk Hogan, and now Lex needs help fighting him off after 2 punches and a body slam? Lex did not come off strong here.
Caught him unaware.
So Sting runs out. He's going after Savage, beating him up. Lex has not moved in like 2 minutes, and Sting grabs Savage for the death drop, and looks behind him and realizes, if I hit this move, I'll land on Lex. So he says, Lex, move. At this point, Lex just gets up. Just gets up and walks away. So they drop Savage on his head, and then the NWO comes out and surrounds the ring. So there's dead Savage, Sting and Luger standing on either side of him ready to fight, and the NWO are on the ring, and they're trying to make peace, saying, hey, we hate Savage as much as you do. And then, I ain't making this up, a giant net fell from the ceiling.
Fucking net.
I can't say it with a straight face either.
Net.
A giant net fell from the ceiling.
Yeah, like a cartoon.
Like Batman.
A fucking net fell from the ceiling. I howled with laughter. And then the NWO starts stomping on the guys. And I look at the background, and Scott Hall is howling with laughter. Probably because he realizes a goddamn net just fell from the ceiling, and these men are trapped under a net.
Under a net.
And then later on in the show's going off the air. I'll just cut to the end. And Tony says, Thursday, we'll give you an update on the condition of Sting. I was like, condition of Sting? What the fuck happened on this show? I actually had to go back because I'd been laughing so hard about the net that I didn't even realize who the net even fell on. I wasn't even paying attention. I was fixated on the net. Like they dropped a fucking net on guys. And then I'm thinking, hold on a second. The net fell on Luger, Savage, and Sting, right?
Yeah.
And they all got stomped on?
Yeah.
And the only one that anybody cares about is Sting?
Apparently.
That's not very nice.
No.
That's a Sting. What's this net made of metal?
So apparently at some point in the week prior, Hogan turns to Bischoff and says, you got an idea, brother. And by the way, this works in storyline and in real life as well. It's ridiculous either way.
Oh, yeah. I've been watching those old Batman shows.
Can you get a net? That'd be great.
Come on, it's Turner. Of course we can get a fucking net.
Now, there's still more weirdness. When they go to break, the NWO is still stomping on these guys in a net. They go to commercial, come back, the Nitro girls are just dancing.
Yeah.
Where'd the net go?
Well,
What happened?
they got him out of there. They probably just rolled him all up in the net and dragged it to the back.
Oh, I wish I could have seen that.
Maybe they pulled the net back to the ceiling with a minute.
Outsiders came out for a promo. It went forever. Announcer said Sting had suffered, quote, some sort of injury.
Hall did his survey. WCW got booed like crazy.
Yes, they did.
Louder than ever.
So it's the Outsiders against the Steiners. So the whole gimmick has been, as of late, Scott has been going the whole way and refusing to tag Rick in. So Rick says, no. I'm starting this time, brother. So he starts, he wrestles for a minute, and he tags out.
You dumb shit.
The other great part here is they're beating Scott up, and Nash like boots him in the stomach, and he bends over, and Nash just grabs his head, and everyone goes, "It's the powerbomb!" And they jump up out of their seat, and Nash looks around at them, laughs, and lets go of his head. That's all he had to do. So, let's see what happens.
Scott gets this power bomb on Scott Hall.
Yes.
And it's his big chance to make the tag again, which they've been building up for weeks and weeks. And Rick's like, tag me! And Ted DiBiase's like, tag him! And Scott Steiner says, I got him.
Yeah.
And right as he says it, Hall shoves him. He bashes into his brother on accident. The referee counts this as a fucking tag. Rick comes off the top, hits the Bulldog, and gets the pin and the titles. Now, I thought the story was going to be that Scott kept winning all the matches by himself, and finally, when the titles were on the line, it would bite him in the ass, and he'd get pinned, they'd lose, and they'd break up. But they didn't do that. The story was he was forced to accidentally tag, and then his brother won the titles for him. This made Scott very angry. But at the end of the show, he did hug his brother and celebrate with all of the belts.
And the only two things you're glossing over are specifically at the finish, after Rick has been accidentally tagged in, Scott Hall grabs Scott Steiner and goes for the outsider's edge, but Rick comes off with the Bulldog and he lands the pile just collapses. 3 men falling on top of each other, which also explains why Scott Steiner was pissed. But then, as you noted, DiBiase is out there celebrating with the Steiners, and it suddenly occurred to me, DiBiase's still employed. He's on a really nice paycheck to do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know this,
along with 268 other people.
I know there are other guys making money who didn't even show up, but yeah.
This was a hell of a gig there in the
Absolutely,
90s.
man.
Show was so much better than last week. Big thumbs up for Nitro. A lot of good wrestling. Hulk Hogan even wrestled on TV and it was good. What the hell more can you ask for? All right, everybody, with that, we're totally out of time. We'll be back tomorrow with Observer Live, Filthy 4 Daily, and Observer Radio. A lot of stuff up on the front page. I have been alerted. If you go to my Twitter, at Brian Alvarez, you can get my running commentary for SmackDown as well, by the way. But pinned at the very top, our Pro Wrestling Tees store link. Apparently, we've got new shirts in there. A lot of them. Including a brand new Brian and Vinny and Craig retro t-shirt. It's now available.
That's right.
Head up there and check that out. We got 2 Team Viggity t-shirts. We've got what is that? The hell is that? The Store Horseman?
Should I look this up?
What is that? I don't even know what this is.
Now I'm confused. So I go to WrestlingObserver.com. This should be a link to the Pro Wrestling Tees.
What the hell is the Store Horseman? What is that?
I'm not seeing this link.
Go to my Twitter.
Twitter, all right.
Horseman1.
Twitter page, I see.
Yeah. I don't know what the Store Horseman is. I missed that one. I missed the joke. I'll have to find out. But anyway, we got a lot of great shirts up there. And yes, for those of you asking, there will be a -5 stars shirt.
It does say Store Horseman.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a horse screaming into a microphone. With no explanation.
No, there's
Folks,
no explanation.
I'm as confused as you.
I'm going to find out right after the show goes off the air. I'm going to get the scoop on the Store Horseman. Watch that be the best-selling fucking shirt right there.
Sure it is.
Anyway, the -5 stars -5 stars shirt will be available soon, which is a great shirt because it's not even necessarily a wrestling shirt.
Sure.
Anywhere you go that sucks, you can pose for a photograph in your -5 stars shirt. All right, everybody, that's it. We are out of time. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Bye.